up, everybody? Welcome to the Unfiltered Truth. I am Bill Robinson. It's me, my co-host, and here myself, Lee.
Can we hear you?
Can you hear me? Are you
Can we hear
Yeah,
talking
you
to me?
now?
Or
now I can hear you guys.
okay, now you can hear. So
I was about to start calling you mumbles again.
mumbles. Anyway, Unfiltered Truth. Phil Jones, the greatest managing editor who's ever lived in the history of ever. Mario Tovar, head boss over at the Raider Ramble.
I
You
heard he
see his
killed about
stuff
40
on
people.
Cowboys Nation, Just Blog Baby, Teal and Black for Life, whatever that site's called. Sports Not. Is there any place that you're not writing for
I
currently?
heard he was writing on Pornhub.
I've probably
Yeah,
seen some of his
these
work on
days,
there
these
too.
days, no,
Writing
man,
storylines anyway. But
no, man, I'm all over the place right now, just trying to get my
oh,
foot in the door and just trying to get into as many platforms as I can.
hey,
Don't blame me, man.
as many as you can. So, for those who don't know, Mr. Tovar is our boots on the ground representative at the NFL Combine in Indianapolis. And so he's got a great seat at Jordan Davis, absolutely knocking the socks off the entire football landscape. And
Yeah,
all of
man,
your
that 40
day
was
three.
sweet. He lit up the stadium.
I wanted to feel what it was like to be a college quarterback. So every time I look at myself in the background, I see that big dude chasing me.
Yeah, man, he was for 340. That speed is ridiculous, man. Like I mean, prior to the combine, he was what? He was slated to go 20s, probably like mid
Yeah.
20s. Now they're saying they were saying what, top 15, top 10. It's like
Uh,
it's yeah, that
if he
40.
well, and the 40 was serious, but his broad jump was almost what was it? Almost 11 feet.
Yeah.
That's what
I
that's
believe so.
what
Yeah.
was
Hmm.
great. And his vertical wasn't
Hmm.
no slouch either. It's like you looked at the last time we saw that guy, he was 360 and looked every bit of it. You said 360 might have been generous. Probably
Yeah.
he looked way bigger than he did today. But watching him run, watching not just the 40, the drills that he did, watching his change of direction, the ability, the stop and start, the acceleration, like he went out there and made himself millions of dollars today.
Oh yeah, and he did that by losing because I had him at his college weight, which is like 350 plus, right? And that's what I tweeted
360.
out. And
Yeah.
a couple people tweeted me right away, like, "Hey, he's at 340 now." It's like, oh crap! Well, those 10, 15 pounds he lost probably just made
Yeah.
him a few $1 million.
Yeah.
It's why I always say when you look at guys, like you look at a guy, if he's 240, he needs to gain at least 15 pounds. If he's 360 or above, he needs to lose at least 20. It
Yeah,
it it,
and
it
I saw
sounds
a tweet
crazy.
right now that made me laugh. Yeah,
It sounds crazy, but it always seems to work just right, just that way. But you're on the ground. Talk to us. I'm taking up all the time. I want to hear what you've seen. Break us down. Let us know what we need to know from the combine today.
honestly, dude, those interior defensive linemen, they absolutely killed it. Everybody's just impressed. Meanwhile, they were posting I was watching the 40 times for the edge rushers. The edge rushers struggled today, man. It was the IDL, man. They put on a show today. Whether it was the 40, whether it was all the different drills, they just looked super athletic. It's crazy how much they've evolved, like the position. The same thing could be said today, what we saw yesterday with the offensive lineman, like how a guy that used to be 315 back in the day is now 315 now, like Evan Neal, like how
Yeah.
much the position has evolved. You know what I mean? Like you see him in person, he doesn't look that weight, man. Like it's not
I
an
was like, there's
exaggeration.
no
He doesn't
fucking
look
way
his
this
weight.
dude weighs 337. There's just no way.
I
But
mean, his
but
height was like, oh, okay, like it's impressive, but his weight, it's like, man, that guy weighs 315. It's like, That's amazing.
340. No, 340. About a biscuit shy of 340. Like I just don't see it. But one of the things that I can see, and I saw all combine, at least for the linemen, especially with the linemen aren't fat anymore.
They swole like they like
Yeah, they look like
they look like
really big tight ends. Like really big tight ends.
no, they look like they're all built like Sean Oakman.
Yeah. Just
Yeah. It's
huge
their
guy.
frame. It's their frame, dude. It's the frame and it's the length. Like even though he didn't do the bench, I was right in front of Trevor Penning, right? And it's
Mhm.
like
Okay.
that guy doesn't look like his weight, but he's just muscle and the frame and the height.
Well,
Like
you
the
said you said Trevor
go ahead.
Penning?
Yeah.
Yeah, Penning.
Sir,
Penning.
when I met him up close, and then when I left out that Friday, I ran into his brother and was like double vision. And I was like, dear God. Like I had like a offensive line coach moment where it was like, if I had both of them, I could destroy the NFL. We would just run behind them every play.
Every play.
But that's what they were doing at Northern Iowa.
And speaking of the, since we're talking about the combine and whatnot, a bunch of the people were saying that they should probably revise some of the as far as like the scheduling of the drills, because I want to say like 95% of the O linemen didn't do the bench, and it's like, how are you going to do the bench if right after that you're going to go to the stadium and you're going to do all these drills, using your arms, using your back, and it's like they're saying. I mean, does it really hurt the draft stock? Probably not. I mean, I would say the 40 is a lot more, indicative of the stock than the bench. But it is something worth noting that, like, maybe the combine scheduling needs to be updated soon or revised. You know what I mean? The way they do it. At least that's what I think.
There definitely need to be some tweaks made, but having looked at the combine coverage, because you're there, and versus what I see on TV, their combine coverage on TV and even the Senior Bowl coverage was just left something to be desired. You're cutting guys, you're not getting to see everybody's reps. You're not getting to see all of the times. I was tracking running backs, and then the next thing I know, I have not even maybe a quarter of the way through second runs, they're done. I don't see anymore. And all of a sudden we have these adjusted times that are crazy. Like take Ty Chandler, for instance. He ran, the last time I saw him run was 4:45. Somehow he ended up with an official 4:38. Like, okay, all the times are off. It's been wild. It's been wild. But I know that down there you've got a little different perspective of what's going on. So those were the running backs. But continue. I'm sorry.
No, yeah, you're right, and I do agree because you can hear on the headset the coverage that's on TV, and it's like, man, you're cutting to commercials like in the middle of these like drills, and you can see on Twitter people complaining. I mean, obviously they got to make money, man. Like that's what it comes down to. They know there's millions of people tuning into the combine. That's why I know for a fact a lot of people hold off for like a day or two before writing content on the combine, and they wait for all the official times to come in and stuff. Like for today, I just wrote about an hour ago for Sportsnout on Jordan Davis, but that's because I was there. Like I saw his performance. I was like, all right, let me get back to my hotel and let me crank this out, because right now it's trending. You go on Google, you go on Twitter, it's all about Jordan Davis. So you got to jump on it, man.
No, I totally get it, and I would have stayed and used. They don't have Wi-Fi in the stadium.
Yeah, but you know me, I didn't take my laptop or anything. My hand had a beer in my hand, so you know how that goes.
Hey, nothing wrong. Nothing
You
wrong.
got you thinky finger.
Hey man, I was putting in work, man. I need to have at least one. You know what I mean, to relax a little bit.
From one pro to another,
experience.
I was gonna say, from one pro to another, you got to go down and slam one, and then head back up to the press box.
Hey, bro,
well, in this case, the hotel, since there's no press box,
right?
But yeah. But as far as everything else that stood out, man, wide receivers. What do you guys think about Olaf, man? That's everybody's already. I mean, in my opinion, I don't think he'll be there at 22. I think he did so well. He'll probably be gone by then. But obviously, that's the one that's everybody kind of pointing to now for the Raiders. But I don't think Olaf makes it to 22, to be honest.
I think he'll be
What
there.
do you guys think?
I think he'll be there. But I think you can get something else instead of him. I think, and I have to tell folks again, just because a team spoke to a player, that doesn't make it definitive that they're going to draft him. And I want to interview as many players as possible. I need to know what their MO is. I need to see I need to understand some of the characteristics. I need to just get inside the player's head to see will he fit within this organization? Will he fit under the scheme we're running? If he's defense or if he's offense, we need to understand that. I'm not going to try to give everything away to him, but I got to understand, do I take him with my 22nd pick? Or maybe this guy is a third rounder. Is he willing to take in a later round? Those are things that a lot of folks have to understand. Just because we didn't talk to him don't mean a damn thing, because it could be the one guy you least expect. You're like, shit. We taking that guy?
No, it's true, because if you think about it, every prospect you talk to, they talk to about what, like 80% of the teams.
Yeah.
So
right.
Yeah, you can only put so much stock into the interview process. They said it themselves too at the podium. It was a common theme that they're exhausted because there's so many interviews, man. Like it's literally bam, bam, one right after the other, and yeah, and they're not too in depth either. That's the thing too. I'm sure they're pretty general interviews.
Yeah, and the one thing I realized, they did it during the Senior Bowl too. During the Senior Bowl breakfast, you had some teams coming up there talking to some of the players and whatnot. So this is just just doing my due diligence. That's it. And then when players have their pro days, it's gonna be the same thing. Private invites is gonna be the same thing. But for a lot of people to say that this draft is not going to be, that it's not going to even be, plausible, or it's going to be any good. From the beginning, I just kind of came out and just felt that you're wrong.
Yeah, there's crazy talent in this draft.
I think the problem, what happened was, when you had the pandemic back in 2020, a lot of teams, like there were some teams where they had limited amount of games, or they didn't play that year. So you're just like, do I go off a 2019 film and then try to jump and go off a 2021 season film? Or if you look at some of them that played in 2020, you figure out whether or not that, well, let's see the talent that he was playing up against. So it's weird, but at the end of the day, I think this draft class is going to be solid from what I've seen so far.
Absolutely, it should be.
Definitely solid. Definitely solid. But you know what? A bunch of the scouts were saying today at the around the podium, the talk. I believe it was the 2019 class. They were comparing it to this one. They were saying that because of the talent differential, they're predicting, I should say, that this is going to be one of those classes where the bottom 15 are going to end up performing better than the top 15. I believe that was 2019, right? I believe that was the 2019, right? And they're saying they're getting a vibe of that. I don't know. I don't necessarily agree with that, but it would be interesting, because if you really look at this draft, man, there is no consensus number one. Evan Neal is probably going to be number one, but there's 4 to 5 guys that are easily interchangeable at number one. There's no, I don't know if you would call it Evan Neal a generational talent. Will you? Not necessarily, but It's just one of those things I thought that was very interesting. They were saying that this class is reminding me, like, it's going to be solid. There's a lot of talent. This is probably one of those draft classes where you can definitely rebuild your defense. It's deep,
Yeah.
what I mean, at a lot of those positions. So you could easily, Raiders obviously like rebuild your defense, but for sure, man, like it's pretty deep. Like one of the guys that I really liked over this weekend was actually the Georgia kid, Devontae Wyatt. Just
Mm-hmm.
versatile, man. Like, and did you see his 44-77? Something about these Georgia
Sizzling.
guys, man. All three of them. Yeah.
Said, and then
So
Ajuluare from last season, right? I mean, the
Yeah.
whole line,
mhm.
they just keep going as a factory, and that's one. And so when you ask that question about Olave, I'm not necessarily sure that needs to be the first move that you make. Like you said, this draft is defensive deep, and there's plenty of wide receivers. If truth be told, there's a lot of guys out there that can catch, that can run. You saw that everybody, the highest four sub four 4.4 runners in the history of the combine. I mean,
Mhm.
everybody can run.
So,
Everybody's got pretty decent size. What I would be more curious to see is the route running. There was a few people whose route running stood out better than others, but more importantly, said this team needs to rebuild defense and they need to get big up the middle. And if you've got any of those monsters that you saw available that were out here crushing the combine today,
Yeah.
you gotta. That's where you got to invest into your franchise.
yeah. How would you guys feel about a scenario where first round they go either D line or interior offensive line, and then second round they go after a wide receiver like a Sky Moore, somebody with that type of speed. You know what I mean? I think that'd be a great potential, scenario for the Raiders, especially because
Man.
the recent mocks have they got the Raiders going with Kenyon Green, which wouldn't be that bad of a pick to be honest, especially after what you saw this weekend from him. Just my opinion.
So you know what I want. Give
Let's
me
hear
Mr. Calvin.
Calvin Austin.
it.
Yes,
Okay.
sir. Don't give me Mr. Austin the
That's
third.
him. Yeah, him and Moore like really shot up this weekend. Obviously, Olaf was the talk of the town and on social media, but Moore and Austin definitely moved up. So that, but Phil's right. Like they don't necessarily need to go. And oh, here's the other thing too. We don't even know what they're going to do in free agency yet with wide receiver. I mean, they might not do nothing, but I do think that's going to play a big factor in what they decide to do.
Yeah, you also got to factor in what you're gonna do in free agency. You could say, hey, we want to get veteran O linemen. We could get veteran two vet. We could bring back Solomon Thomas or so. You can do a little bit of that, and then come draft. I'm like, hey, all right, so we get him. We trade
Mhm.
back, or we make a trade to get another player, someone that's big, someone that can be an instant impact. And it's a lot of things you can do. Well, we're in March right now, and
That's
come April, it's war room.
No, without a doubt, without a doubt. But we've definitely got a much better idea of what's available, and that helps when you start building. When you're looking at building a roster to see what you can't get out of the draft and what you can. And for a team that needs as much help on the front lines as I know, I said I didn't want to draft a lineman, but looking at some of these cats that you take Abraham Lucas, for instance. Now, you said, what if you draft a D lineman and then a wide receiver? Well, what if you draft your top tier D lineman and then you draft Abraham Lucas, a right tackle who didn't allow a sack in over 400 snaps? That's the glaring weakness. Those two are the biggest weaknesses on your team that absolutely have to be addressed. You do, and while I said I don't want a rookie at right tackle, this dude, that's his actual position, and
Yeah,
he excelled at
mhm.
his actual position, and that's something that we haven't seen in around this way in a while, is drafting guys who excel at their actual position and letting them play it, especially when it's
Mhm.
anything other than one of the skill positions.
Yep. No, that's true. How do you guys feel about? Because I mean, it's not getting a lot of talk. I don't know why, but linebacker. What about Christian Harris from Alabama in the third round? I think that'd be a good pick. Third round. I know I wrote
After that
about him
40
in
time he
some
had,
second, but that's a bit of a stretch. Yeah.
that
Right?
40
I
time
mean,
said, "Hold my beer on that third round. We're going for the second." I mean, that would be nice. I
mhm.
gotta see my guy. I
I
gotta
mean,
see the result with Chad Mama. Mama.
mhm.
Muma.
Yeah,
I mean,
Mama.
he can cover. That's for
So
sure. I mean, he can
my
cover, and
knock on
that's what they're gonna
my knock
need.
on him is that every time you see Chad Muma, he's always coming forward. You never ever see him take a step backwards.
Like I seen
True.
him up close. This man looked like the Legend of Hercules, all swole. He's built like bro. That man is Broly. All right, he's Broly.
He said, built like Hercules.
That
He
man is
said,
Broly.
like, bro.
Like I looked at him in the coverage drill. I was like, bro, you too strong. I feel like you like left imprints in the ground. I was like,
True.
just looked at him close. I talked to one of the coaches. Like, who's that? Let's chat Mamba. I said, what? What the hell is that?
So real quick, while you're there, and you've had a chance to talk to scouts, what did they say about running backs? I've seen a couple of guys that I had my eyes on, a couple of guys that impressed me from out of nowhere.
I think the two guys that I heard a lot of chatter around, and then obviously at the actual performances, McCormick, Sincere McCormick, and obviously
Mhm.
Brees, man, he killed it, dude.
Mm,
But definitely Sincere McCormick. And you know what's funny about McCormick? We ran an article on the prospect rollout on him, and to be
Mhm.
honest, I wasn't too familiar with him. And then, Lord behold, 72 hours later, he's all over TV and stuff. And it's like, how did I miss that one? He came out of nowhere. I mean, considering the school and stuff, I mean, I'm pretty sure 95% of people hadn't heard of his name, unless you really
Mhm.
follow the college game. But that's
Right.
one name that really stood out as far as running back. Not that the Raiders are going to draft one, right? So,
At least not that high up.
yeah.
I was looking
not
at
that
a
high.
Ty
Not that
Chandler
high.
out of North Carolina. Did you hear any chatter about him? Because
Mm.
I watched him and I was like, yo, this dude is a beast.
No, not Chandler. I know it was just McCormick and Brees, obviously, were the biggest names, especially in this class where, if you really think about it, running back hasn't really been that heralded as far as the position. You know what I mean? Not saying that there's not talent, but there's
Right.
no top 25 running. It's going to go in the top 25. I mean, I seriously doubt it. But yeah, those two guys, especially McCormick, I really want to dive more deep into him now for sure. Not that the Raiders would take somebody, a running back that early, but you know, never know. I think people have to remember this is a brand new philosophy. It's a brand new regime. Like somebody was telling me on Twitter, oh, the Raiders don't take linebackers before the third round, and it's like, yeah, that's true historically, but you got to think, man, this is a whole other regime that thinks very differently. Ziegler and McDaniels. Not saying that they're going to take a linebacker, before the third round, but you know, I think we should expect something very differently this year. Is what I'm trying to say, as opposed to years past. Definitely different than Mayock, that's for sure.
Well, I mean, at this point, good old Mayock. Good old Mayock.
Yeah.
Good old
Well,
Mayock.
speaking of which, yeah, they were talking a lot about Mayock. A lot of guys were like, "Hey, like he needs to go back to NFL Network. That's where he does a good job at it." It's like, oh man, I couldn't comment. I'm like, oof, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
But
I was like,
it's
not
like
after
they
what
were
I've
saying
seen,
he's
bro. Yeah, not after what I've seen. I've seen too
yeah.
much. That when he starts talking, I'd be like, dude, shut the fuck up. Somebody else told you to say that. Yeah, I've seen you drafted. I've seen you drafted. I believed in you. Whoo, boy, was I let down.
Yeah. But then again, I guess we could debate that all night about who really had the final say on some of those picks, though, right? But
Right,
you
Yeah.
know, that's another topic for another night. I'm
right.
assuming.
All right. So, real
But
quick to hurry up and get you out of here. I know you're a busy man with articles to write and content to produce. So final thoughts.
For the Raiders, I really think offensive line. I know a lot of my early mocks that I've written, I had Trevor Penning, but that's not going to happen. There's no way Trevor Penning's going to make it a 22. I'd be shocked if he makes it that low. But if he does, I mean, that's a can't miss prospect right there. But again, I don't think Penny makes it. I think something more realistic for the Raiders would probably be either Kenyon Green, interior offensive lineman, obviously. That's probably more realistic, or Drake London, one of those
Mhm.
two guys. My prediction, to be honest.
Fair enough.
All right.
All right, guys. Well, thank you for your time, Mario. As always, plug what you got to plug.
Uh, just follow me, obviously, Twitter at underscore Mario Tovar. Like you said at the intro, man, you can catch me pretty much everywhere. Just Blog Baby, RaiderRamble.com, Sportsnaut. Uh, you find all that stuff in my header.
Right on, right on. All right, guys. Thanks everybody for tuning in. As always, please click like, subscribe, and click the notifications so that you never miss a video. We will be back in approximately an hour and a half with After Dark. And for the memberships, we will have the After Dark After Show at 9. So we look to see all of you then. And till then, take care and God bless. We out.